Hi, guys. We're back. Welcome to another episode. This is the Spurs Up Show, episode 6. We got a really special show for you guys today. I'm joined, as always, by my colleague Tyler Clark, as well as we have a special guest on today. But first, I'll introduce him in a second. If you do want to follow the show, we are on iTunes at the Spurs Up Show. You can also find us on Armchair All-Americans. You can go to the South Carolina page and actually follow all of our happenings there with all of the breaking news, articles, obviously the podcast as well. You can also follow us on our Twitter account at Armchair SCAR. So that's Armchair SCAR. We'll always post the show there, as well as all the articles and breaking news and stuff there. So like I said, I'm joined today with my colleague Tyler Clark, as well as a very special guest of ours, 2011 national champion. He actually played for South Carolina from 2011 to 2013. Was an integral part on that 2011 national championship team. Made the SEC all-freshman team. Posted a little bit of stats here, 6-1 record with a 2.96 ERA in 73 innings pitched, had 63 Ks as well. And most notably, I would say, where Gamecock fans would remember him from, is he pitched Game 1 of the College World Series final against the Florida Gators. One of the most memorable games, I would say, in South Carolina baseball history. The Gamecocks actually won. I want to introduce Forrest Kumis to the show. Forrest, how's it going, man? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you a lot for coming on as well, taking time out of your day. And we'll obviously get into a little bit more of that. But jumping right into it, definitely going to want your input now on everything that's happened, because Tuesday night, it was announced Chad Holbrook, late Tuesday night actually, it was announced Chad Holbrook would be resigning as South Carolina head baseball coach. Obviously, there was a lot of speculation, and this was something I know, Tyler, yourself and I had talked about happening. So, in Forrest, I know that you obviously played for Chad Holbrook a little bit, and he was obviously an assistant as well as head coach over you. So we'll start with you first, Tyler, kind of because we had talked about it before. What's kind of your initial reaction to the Chad Holbrook resignation?
All right, so I was watching, I just told you this, but I was watching Guardians of the Galaxy 2 for the second time, and we were sitting in the back, so I was using my phone, and I saw a tweet, Chad Holbrook resigned, and it completely blew my mind. But the first thing that came to my mind is, like, who could you possibly hire at South Carolina? We've had this conversation 1,000 times, but now that it's actually happened, it really blows my mind. But a lot of the lists I've seen have a lot of high-end guys, so at least they're going to go after the top guys and not settle for an assistant somewhere or something like that.
Right. No, I'd absolutely agree with you. And just to kind of recap as well, the initial press release came out. Holbrook just said, I want to thank our fans, players, coaching staff, everyone that touched Carolina baseball. This will always be a special place for me and my family. Wearing that jersey, being a part of 2 national championships, and meeting so many great people are things that I'll always treasure. I'll always be a Gamecock. At the end of the day, this was the best decision for us. And I wish Coach Tanner in this program I love so much, nothing but the best. So, Tyler, I'm kind of like you. I agree with you as well. I was actually just sitting at my apartment, and I get kind of notifications from a Twitter account on South Carolina Athletics, and had it pop up, and I was shocked. I told you that I thought he'd come back. I thought the relationship with Ray Tanner would save him, but
we both agreed on that.
And what I think really happened is that this is what I really hoped would happen, is that I think Ray Tanner, like we said before, South Carolina baseball sort of is his baby. He brought it to where it was, and I think he values the South Carolina baseball program enough to understand when a relationship isn't working out. And his job, obviously, as the athletic director, is to notice that. So, but I was as astonished as you. I mean, I didn't expect it to happen. Now, Forrest, you obviously played for Chad Holbrook. You played for Ray Tanner. I don't know how much you've been following South Carolina baseball this season, but what was sort of your initial reaction after how the season went and then Chad Holbrook getting let go, if you will?
Yeah, I was just as surprised as y'all. I didn't think it would. I mean, I knew there was some, rambling about it, but other than that, I didn't think it would happen right now. But there are a lot of guys out there who I think are qualified for the position, moving forward. And like me and you were talking earlier, like, I think we got the best guy to make that decision in Ray Tanner. He's been perfect so far, and I really believe in him to make the right decision, moving forward.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I definitely think it helps as well that Ray Tanner's a guy that coached you. He's been in the position of South Carolina head coach. He knows what it takes to be the head coach at South Carolina. He understands the expectations and the kind of weight it can put on you, and the kind of person that can handle that. So I think at the end of the day, I know we had talked before. I think maybe the stage got a little too big for Holbrook. Obviously, and one thing I want to talk about was Chad Holbrook's really his impact on Gamecock baseball and the impact he may have had on you directly because, obviously I think the year before Holbrook had gotten there, South Carolina had just lost out of the East Carolina Regional. They had I don't think they'd been to Omaha in like 4 years or so. Had kind of struggled, and people were starting to maybe question, Coach Tanner's ability to get South Carolina back to Omaha and get them to the promised land, if you will. Talk about, because obviously you had a relationship, I imagine, with Coach Holbrook. What do you feel like his impact was coming to the Gamecock baseball program first as an assistant and then taking over as head coach?
Well, I think he was a big part of, why I went there. One of the first, but I was one of the top few guys, or first few guys that he recruited when he got here. So, I always kind of had a special spot, for Coach Holbrook, and great person. I thought he was a great coach. He's a real players type coach, like a guy's guy. Like you could really go to him with anything you had going on. And like you said, it could have been, the pressure, but it's hard to build on after, all that success that we had and then coming in and, maybe having a down year. And it's funny because, I'm living right outside of Detroit right now. And earlier in the season, I was telling the guys up here that, they were talking about maybe him getting fired. And they're like, how is he going to get fired? They're in the top 25. And I was like, that's how high on a pedestal they put the program. And people just really didn't believe what I was saying. And now it's kind of coming out. It's like, if you don't produce, like they'll get someone in there who can. And even though we were in the top 25 for a good portion of the year.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And that was something we, touched about on the last show, as far as there are things that are forgivable and things that aren't. I think at the end of the day, for South Carolina baseball fans especially, you can have a down year. I think the first year South Carolina lost to UNC in the Super Regionals. Going to the regionals, going to the Supers and losing is one thing, but missing the postseason twice in 3 years, especially when you came into it. When you came into a season with a number 4 preseason ranked team, you had arguably the best pitching staff in the country with Clark Schmidt, Will Crow, and then Adam Hill. And then to completely miss the postseason from that, even with all the injuries, but the way they were losing ball games as well. I think at the end of the day, that just South Carolina baseball fans couldn't accept that.
Yeah, that's true. And then you think we probably missed the tournament by 1 or 2 games, and we had a few injuries, this year. Say we wouldn't blew a few of those leads that we had late in the game if Tyler Johnson was, healthy and everything. So a little bad luck, a little bit of, kind of, I guess, snowballing on the last few years, if you will. But like you said, it's tough. It's a business, and I'm sure he approached it that way.
Absolutely,
it's
Tyler.
Coach Tanner did.
Yeah, absolutely. Tyler, do you have any kind of take on sort of? I mean, we come from a fan's perspective, not in the clubhouse or the dugout, but kind of your take on Holbrook as far as his evolving from assistant to head coach, sort of his impact.
I mean, it's difficult because we were just talking about just taking over after winning 2 national championships is almost an impossible thing to do. And, I mean, I thought he did a decent job with what he was dealt, and I think he's a great recruiter too. But, I mean, as Forrest was saying, you just missed by a couple of games. And it was 10 one-run losses. 10 one-run losses, a lot of that has to come back on decisions made. And whether it was Holbrook or Jerry Myers or anyone else, I mean, someone has to take the blame for it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I mean, I think if South Carolina either wins even the Missouri series or Georgia series, they're going to get it in the tournament. I think purely off of just South Carolina baseball tradition. The NCAA wants a program like South Carolina in there. I mean, I think that's a fair assumption. But yeah, I mean, they always say never follow up a legend in coaching. I mean, it's kind of how I believe it was. When Ron Zook followed up Spurrier at Florida. Obviously, it's football a little bit different, but Will Muschamp followed up Urban Meyer, and then it's extremely difficult. And I think, I mean, he came into a tough situation in the sense that South Carolina fans. I mean, people forget. South Carolina, they won 2 national championships in a row, but they went to a third in 2012.
Yep.
I mean, they got back. Yeah. Everybody always forgets that because they didn't win that one. So, I mean, you come into a situation.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Just another example. The year after we won the second one, my freshman year, and we're taking pictures in front of the stadium with the Omaha statue and stuff. There was fans walking by trying to jump in pictures and stuff, and they kept yelling out three-peat, and we were like, we just won the second one, and that just shows you how high the expectations are. We just literally won a few hours ago, and they were calling for a three-peat. So, like you said, following up a legend is tough, and Coach Tanner is probably one of the, if not the best coach that I've ever played for. So,
absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I don't think Chad Holbrook did a horrible job. My biggest critic of him, Forrest, was I thought this year a lot of times what had happened was the thing that irked me the most, I guess you say. I felt like South Carolina, obviously they dealt with injuries. You lost Tyler Johnson. You had to shuffle in the bullpen, and they lost a lot of those games late. It just seemed like to me, Chad Holbrook, it didn't seem like he had the ability to innovate and kind of reinvent his coaching style. He kind of is who he is. Mm-hmm. He's going to stick to his guns. And South Carolina kept losing baseball games the same exact way with the same guys out there. I know you got to trust your guys and everything, but it just seemed like to me, and I think that's the reason that him and Ray kind of decided, hey, maybe it's best for South Carolina and you to go somewhere else. Because I think bringing him back also, it's like, how is he going to reinvent himself? How is he going to change? And with how the fans were feeling, I think it was honestly the best decision for him and South Carolina to kind of part ways.
I do too.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So we've obviously been talking a lot about the South Carolina fan base, their expectations. Forrest, you played for South Carolina. You definitely understand what the expectations are. So there's been a lot of chatter on Twitter, I know, and social media about an article that Aaron Fitt from D1Baseball.com wrote about the expectations, if you will. The actual title of the article was Sky High Expectations Doomed Holbrook. And I'll read you a little snippet of this article, if you will. So let me pull it up really quickly here. So basically he's talking about South Carolina won 44 games and hosted a regional, but was upset by Maryland. He goes on to talk about 2013. South Carolina won 43 wins, went to the Supers, lost to UNC. Next year they won 44 games, lost to Maryland in the regionals. Talking about basically the unrealistic expectations. His next sentence says, the Gamecocks got hot and lucky a couple of years in a row, and their fans suddenly believed championships were their birthright. I thought that sentence was very harsh to South Carolina fans and very unfair. Your initial reaction to I'll start with you, Tyler. Your initial reaction to Aaron Fitt, kind of, in my opinion, what he's saying is that he thinks South Carolina fans feel too entitled and we got lucky to win those national championships. What's kind of your take on it?
Well, what if you told Alabama that they were lucky because of this run they're on in football the last few years? They'd freak out too. I mean, I think those are similar situations. I don't think you're going to tell them that they got lucky. Nick Saban's a legendary coach. Ray Tanner's a legendary coach. You have to respect things that happen. You don't go to 3 consecutive national championships because you got lucky.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Forrest, obviously, I want to definitely get your take because you were on 2 of those teams that got lucky, quote unquote. What's kind of your response to that analysis?
Well, when we came in as freshmen, it was riding the coattails of the first one, and everyone said, oh, they got lucky. How do you beat Bauer? How do you beat Garrett Cole in the national championships with what we had? And it would just show that how hard our guys worked on and off the field, and what kind of guys that we had, and that Coach Tanner and Holbrook had brought in. And then the second year, say the first year is a fluke, all you want. The second year, we went out there and we beat everyone that we played, and that we won every single midweek game that year. We lost one series, I think, at Ole Miss, and we had less talented guys than obviously like what we went up against Florida. I can't remember the exact numbers, but they had around 9-10 guys drafted that year, I believe. And for people to say that was a lucky or a fluke, I just think it showed that how good we really were, and how good our defense was, how good our pitching was. We didn't hit real well, but I think when we won, we batted .243. But our I mean, you went Michael Rolfe to John Taylor for the 8th to Matt Price for the 9th. You weren't beating that. There was no way.
Nope.
And I think that shows that we didn't get lucky in my mind. I think because they did it every single week. It wasn't like, oh, we got lucky and beat Vandy, one time with Sonny Gray on the mound, or we beat Connecticut and Springer and all them. Like, we beat good people, and for people to say that we got lucky or it was a fluke, it kind of blows my mind, because we did it so many times in a row and never really were on the losing end of it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you go 1 year and win it, might be a fluke. You go 3 years in a row, something's working.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you can say. I mean, I'm the first to admit that in baseball, especially, you get a couple bounces your way. Every championship team in every sport has to have the ball bounce their way every now and then. But great teams make their own luck. They put themselves in that type of position.
Find ways to win was one of the things that we said. We always found a way to win.
Yeah, and the whole, the win anyway, battle, all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and that just kind of, that's not something that we like went out and we're like, okay, this is what we're gonna use. It just kind of happened because that's the way we played, and I feel like it was pretty special. I know that's why my numbers were so good as a freshman, because you hit the ball in the air in the outfield, it was getting run down. It was a ground ball in the infield, you were getting thrown out by 4 feet, no matter if it was the third, short, or second. We had some guys who could play the game.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that was one thing I was going to say as well. You kind of reminded me of with those whole mantras, win anyway, battle, all that stuff. I thought that this year, that was one thing this team really, really lacked, was the battle mentality, a toughness, if you will. And I mean, that's I think that explains a lot about all the late collapses. I mean, you hate to say that, but I feel like there was just something missing as far as like a toughness. But kind of getting back yeah, go ahead.
All right, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say getting back to the article, but you can go ahead with the kind of what you saw.
I was just going to say, yeah, like I feel like when we would get down in those times, it was always like a guy like Adrian or a Wingo or someone like that to really, be like, listen, that's not what we do. Like, you're better than that guy, or you play better than what you're playing. Go out there and do it, and let's win, and everything will take care of itself. And kind of brought us back down or brought us back up, wherever we were at.
Absolutely. So, yeah, getting back to the Fit article, there was one more thing that stuck out to me. We have been talking about, again, the fans, basically saying that South Carolina fans forced him out. And the last little bit of this article, Fit states, but the Holbrook era should serve as a cautionary tale to prospective candidates. Omaha or bust isn't just a figure of speech in Columbia. Fan interest can cut both ways. So I want to ask both of you guys. I'll start with Forrest. Do you feel like the South Carolina fans' expectations for South Carolina baseball, do you think they're too high? So basically he's saying that the next candidate for this job should be wary of taking it because of the high expectations. Do you think the expectations are too high or unfair for a new head coach to come in?
I don't think they're too high. I think sometimes that people get caught up in the result and not really on how it happened. But I feel like our goal every year was to make it to Omaha. Get to Omaha, you finish in the top 8 teams in the country. That's doing something. It's tough to do to make it to the final 8. I think that people assume us winning every year is probably a little bit high, because with the talent out there, with all the summer ball teams, with all the exposure and camps and showcase tournaments, that there's good guys out there, and I've seen that playing past that and just what's out there. It'll blow your mind, and people who really don't understand that don't get that there's other teams out there who are doing exactly what we're doing, who are trying to get there every single year. And it's a sport. And I think that yeah, they probably are a little bit too high in that regard.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that going to Omaha every year, I think that's too high. I think that people that think that making the regionals every year is too unrealistic, though, is just people don't understand South Carolina baseball if they can't understand those expectations, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Just with the talent,
Yeah.
with the facilities, with the coaching, with the recruiting, there really is no excuse. I mean, there really isn't. Tyler,
Yeah.
Tyler, what's kind of your take on? Do you think the expectations are too high?
Well, we talked about it a lot. No, we talked about this a lot last week, and I said that I think it's reasonable for South Carolina to host a regional every year. That's just being top 25 school, basically. I don't think that's unreasonable at all. And I think a coach that comes in and sees what kind of atmosphere is around Columbia and baseball, and the state in general, I don't think people get it, and they don't understand the fan base and what they can build around here.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with you. So we'll kind of get into, I was going to save this for later, but we'll kind of get into that right now. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of chatter, and I think whoever takes this job next is going to be thrilled, because I think the South Carolina baseball job, I think we would all agree, is one of the best jobs in the country by far. I mean, there's, like you said, endless facilities, talent. You got all the resources. So go ahead.
People still ask me to this day, what is the best field that you've ever played on? And I think hands down is Carolina's field. Even Omaha, I think it's playing surface wise, you can't beat it. And it's probably the top field in the country, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So like you said, resources, getting people here, it should be not easy, but it should definitely be helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah, and with the recruiting as well, I mean, all the talent in the state. I mean, there's so much baseball talent in South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, everywhere. So with that being said, Tyler, I know that you had mentioned that, who is South Carolina going to get? I'd kind of talked to you last week about, I think there's a lot of guys out there that we're not looking at that are available, that will be available for this job.
Yeah.
So, Forrest, I know you had a kind of some insight as well. Are you hearing, because I know you still have ties to the program. Are you hearing anything as far as who South Carolina is looking at, or who they want, or kind of what the deal is with that, the coaching search?
I heard a little bit yesterday from pretty good source saying that O'Sullivan from Florida is one of the top guys, and regardless of how they do this year, that he's leaving. He's tired of being second fiddle down in Florida, and because I mean everyone compares them to the football team, and they're always second best. You figure they got 47,000 students at that school, and they can't even fill a stadium. The field wasn't really nice when we played down there, and I guess he's never really won a national championship either. But I think he's getting tired of being down there and never really getting that extra push from the fan base, the support from the boosters that he needs that he would probably get here.
Wow. Okay.
And that's what I heard from a pretty good source yesterday. Wow. And then I also heard a few names about O'Connor at Virginia, because he's really, really underpaid for having a national championship on his resume.
That's awesome.
That's one guy I've been hearing as well. At least that they want to look at. But wow, Kevin O'Sullivan, that would be. I can definitely see where you're coming from there about being second fiddle at Florida, and I mean obviously South Carolina baseball is the crown jewel. I mean whatever everybody else wants to say, I think it is the one program in South Carolina that is steeped with tradition, real rich tradition in history, and they pack the ballpark every game. Wow, that would be that would make that South Carolina series real interesting.
Yeah,
so
we'll see. Yeah. I'm not sure, but that's kind of what I heard.
Okay, all right. So I know I've also heard obviously the rumblings of would Monty Lee ever come back and leave Clemson. I don't see it happening. I don't see any way.
That would be a tough decision. I'm a big Monty Lee fan, though, honestly. Even though he's the Clemson coach now, he actually went to my high school, so I've known him for a long time. So that would be pretty cool. But like you said, that'd be tough to leave.
If that was possible,
Clemson.
I would love for Monty Lee to be here, because he knows more about in-state talent in South Carolina than just about anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, with that being said, definitely. I mean, and I've also heard Mark Calvey, who's kind of another South Carolina guy.
Yeah, I don't see
I know
that
you're feeling really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see it happening.
I
But
was a Calvi guy. That's who recruited me before Coach Myers came back. He's done well at South Alabama. They made the tournament, I think, almost every year he's been there. Maybe not the first year, but I know they made it the last 2 or 3. Actually got a good buddy who lives up here who played for him, so we always talk about Calvi together. Great guy,
wow.
great guy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely think there's going to be a lot of – I've also heard I don't know all the guys' names, to be honest, but the head coach from Louisville, I think Dan McDonald's his name. They've talked about him a little bit. They've talked about – because he went to the Citadel, I believe.
Yeah, my uncle was a catcher at the Citadel. They were actually roommates, him and Dan McDonald. Louisville,
Wow.
they offered me at a high school only because of that. That's how I had an in.
Right.
And I don't see him coming. He just signed like a 10-year deal. He makes over $1 million a year, I think.
He's in a pretty good spot too. Louisville's doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I saw Tim Corbin's name on a list. No
I saw
chance.
that too.
That guy.
No way.
That guy, he has no expectations every year, and he can give full rides to every player.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there were definitely some names. What was one of the other ones I saw was there's an up and coming coach. I think it's South Florida. They were saying, but I think you got to you got to get a name. I think like a Kevin O'Sullivan, like Virginia head coach. I think you got to get a name because this is a job that deserves a big name. Obviously you want to make a big splash in recruiting as well. I'm just kind of curious what's going to happen to the rest of the staff with Jerry Myers, Sammy Esposito. I guess they're going to get scrapped. I mean, I don't see any way.
I feel like
keep them.
Yeah, I feel like they're probably going to clean house.
Yeah,
I don't know though. I mean, I knew something was kind of going on or something was funny when Andrew Kiddick left kind of halfway through the year.
Right.
Kiddick was like the scorekeeper, and he did everything, behind the scenes. Awesome guy. And for him, it was just kind of a weird timing. And so I kind of figured something was going to be up. But, like I said, I didn't think it was going to be this soon. But I did read that O'Sullivan's got like a buyout on his contract. So if he leaves before 2017, he owes like $1 million or something. And it's after he owes like $750. So that could be something too.
Yeah, Tyler wanted Landon Powell. I don't think that's going to happen though.
No, I simply said Landon Powell is my favorite Carolina baseball player ever, and I wouldn't mind it. Okay.
I mean, maybe if he wants to be like catcher's.
I remember him playing.
Hey, just get him on staff, man. Let's go.
Yeah, well, I know me and Forrest had talked about, and Tyler, you and I as well. If there's anybody I trust with this decision, it's Ray Tanner. He's going to get the right guy in there. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the quote from his press conference yesterday, but he basically said, it's a rough quote. I'm obviously paraphrasing, but he basically said, I know enough people in baseball. I'm not going to have to like call people I don't know to get somebody for the job. Like I know
that is really true.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows everybody. So kind of getting into that with Ray Tanner. Go ahead.
I would say, wouldn't it be something if he was just like, I'm done with all this AD stuff. I'm coming back.
Yeah, I'll just take
it. I'll be honest, you say that, but that's kind of what I was thinking yesterday. I was like, maybe this is like a setup for Tanner's back.
Well, I had heard like when he took the AD job that he wouldn't finish his career as an AD, that he would eventually come back as a coach somewhere. Knows the truth to that, but that would be
the biggest plot twist of all time.
Talk about pleasing everyone. That would please everyone in Columbia.
Oh man, everyone! You couldn't buy a ticket for this year in 2 days. Yeah,
I'd almost not even want him to come back though. It's like, man, you went to 3 straight. Just go out like that. I mean, but then again, if there's anybody that can get him back, it'd be him for sure. So
yeah,
but Forrest, definitely want to, glad to have you on the show. Want to ask you some questions, obviously, about your playing days, kind of move into more of a interview type deal, if you will, but just kind of expanding on your playing days. And we were just talking about Coach Tanner. I'm really
Hello?
Chris just freezed up a little bit.
Yeah. All right, there you go.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, what was it like playing for Tanner when you were there? I know we've had a couple conversations about it, but
it was awesome. He's that type of guy that you really can't figure out because he knows that much about the game. You're like, how does he do that? And I remember Christian Walker talking and telling this story about the Coastal Carolina game the year before I got there when he came up and I think was it Jackie hits a double.
right.
And he hits a ball, over the left field wall. And he said before that at bat, Tanner comes up to him and he says, listen, Jackie's going to hit a first pitch double right here. And this guy's going to try to sneak a changeup by you first pitch. And he said, all you got to do is turn on it and hit it over that left field wall. And Walker said, first pitch, Jackie comes up there, hits a double. And he said, and he trusted him, change up first pitch, and he hit it over the wall. And he said things like that happened all the time. And I personally seen a few of them where he's just like, yeah, this is what's going to happen. And it would literally happen exactly like that.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
We just had like an ongoing joke at like there was no games that ever got rained out at our field because he controlled the weather. And the weather radar would say that, it would pour down. There's no chance we were going to play. And he'd be like, no, show up. Like, we're going to be ready. And it was like he cut a switch on and it was bright every single time. It was really, really weird.
Talk about the baseball god. Seemed like Ray Tanner was the baseball god.
Oh. You there?
Yeah, we're here.
I froze up.
No, you're good. No, I was saying it seemed like Ray Tanner was the baseball god. We always joke about that. He was the baseball god. So that's awesome. Yeah, I know we had Coach Tanner when I played in college. He came and spoke to us a little bit. He was a great dude. And I know that, like you said, just could predict everything on a baseball field. There was nothing that got by Ray Tanner on a baseball field. Just sharp, just had a sharp wit, and obviously it paid off. So we talked a little bit about this, but sort of, what was your relationship with Chad Holbrook, and how do you feel like his coaching style differed from Ray Tanner's coaching style?
I guess he was a little more new school, not old school like Coach Tanner. He kind of tried to play more of to what he had instead of like how Coach Tanner did. And kind of spun off, like you were saying, he did his own way. But I really don't understand. Like, I thought he was going to be a great coach. I thought it was going to be win. Just that's the kind of person that I knew him as. And I'm really not sure kind of what happened.
Right. Yeah. I don't think any of us are either.
Yeah. Like, I really enjoyed him. I really enjoyed playing for him, and he knew the game like just as well. He had a great mentor, but like I said, I think it was just some snowballing from previous years. And then it was just that time where he's like, look, I got to make a move. Like, we're friends and all, but like, this is business. Like we got to do something. And I think it was just that time.
Right. Absolutely. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, obviously you were on the 2011 National Championship team, pitched against Florida in Game 1 of the College World Series. You came into the program after South Carolina won their first national title, riding on the heels of that. Talk a little bit about the 2011 season, what it meant for South Carolina to win back-to-back national titles, and just sort of like kind of about that team. Obviously, you had so many names on that team, from Jackie Bradley to Christian Walker to Michael Roth, Matt Price, John T. You can just go on and on and on. But just talk about kind of that team, the dynamic of that team, and what it was like playing on that squad.
I think that obviously that's the best team I've ever played on, and I would argue anyone that there was a better overall team ever, in history. To win that many games in the postseason, I know I was a part of 16 of the 22 postseason consecutive wins in a row, and that's just unheard of. Texas had 16 at the time that we beat it, and we beat it by 6, which just really shows how hard it was for us to do that. And looking back on it, it's kind of unreal. But there wasn't a point at all, even in the national championship games or in the World Series games, where we got bases loaded, no outs over and over and over again, where I felt like the dugout had a doubt. I mean, even when we were down 3 or 4 in the 7th, it was like, all right, the 7th inning's here. We'll score 2. We'll score 2 again, and then we'll win by 1. And it was just like that feeling every single game. No one ever thought we were going to lose. And when we did, we were like, really? And, 5 in a row. Or the next week, we win 5 in a row. And it was just like we never really thought we were going to lose. Or we just kind of played loose and didn't really think about it. I'm not sure, but maybe a little combination of both.
Yeah, wasn't that the year 20? Go ahead.
I was saying, like I said, we didn't lose a midweek game that year, and I think that's
amazing.
Huge. You win all the midweek games in the year, like you're gonna host or make it far, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wasn't that the year that we South Carolina opened up with? I think it was Virginia, and we spotted them 4 runs in the top of the first and wound up winning 5-4. Was that 2011?
No, it was Texas A&M. The year before they came in the SEC. Yeah. So Roth comes out, gives up 4 in the top of the first, and we're like, oh Lord, here we go. Like, we're gonna lose the first game again, and then have to fight all the way back. And I remember Adrian Morales coming in the dugout and grabbing Roth by the shirt and saying, "Listen, no more. Like, I'm not gonna give up anymore." As soon as that happened, we went out there and we scored 4 in the bottom of the first, and then it was all right. Yeah, we're supposed to be here, and let's take care of business.
Absolutely, yeah. Those were fun games to watch.
My favorite was Danny Holton game against Virginia, where he just completely owned them. He was sick, I think, and he threw like 5 innings, but completely shoved, and then he still lost.
Yeah, the first 2 innings, we didn't foul a ball off, and he struck out 6.
It was insane.
It was the first first 6 batters in a row. I'm talking about there was a bad shadow at the time, so it came right in front of home plate and in the pitcher's mound. And obviously, this guy was, what was he, number 2 overall? He didn't need any help.
Yeah,
they said it was really deceptive. I actually saw Danny Holston in Columbia about 2 years later. He was with Bobby Haney at a restaurant. I can't remember where. And I didn't believe him. And he pulled out his ID and showed me. And I was like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh, we're just hanging out, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "So were you really sick that game? Because you were just shoving it to us." And he was like, "Yeah." He was like, "I went into the dugout and just started throwing up. Which I thought was really weird. Because they took his glove like he was hurt, and they wouldn't let him go back out there. So we all thought, maybe he had tweaked something. But yeah, I had talked to him about 2 years after all this happened. He said he was just throwing up everywhere.
That's crazy. Wow. That game was insane.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy because he was on.
Was that the game the ball got thrown away at third and Adam Matthews came home and scored?
Yeah. Robert Berry laid down the bunt, and the third baseman completely whiffed, hit him right in the ankle, and bounced off.
God. So, obviously, that same tournament, that same year, I want you to talk a little bit about, obviously, I think South Carolina came into the College World Series final against Florida, a little bit of an underdog, even though they won it the previous year. I mean, Florida was stacked. We all know they always have that talent every year. You pitched game 1. I think you went like 5 2/3 or something, only gave up a run, which was in the first inning or third inning, I believe, on a sac fly. Talk about kind of pitching against Florida. What was it like, that pressure in game 1? Obviously, you want to come out and get a dub game 1, set the tone. What was it like facing that amazing lineup for one, and then also the pressure of, pitching game 1?
Well, I had thrown against them earlier in the year. My actually first career start was on the road at Florida, and they were number 1 at the time. Stephen Neff had a little shoulder tweak or something going on, so I started there. So I'd faced them before, and we had a good scouting report on them, and obviously the talent was there. It was just go out there, throw my game. Pat Sullivan always told me, just throw it as hard as you can for as long as you can. So that's what I went out there and tried to do.
Good advice.
Yeah. I wasn't really nervous, I would say. I was excited. I was really, really pumped up. And then when they had that flyover will just get you every time. And I was ready to go. I was excited to be out there.
Right. And that was a crazy game in itself with the I believe it was, I think it was Wingo had the base hit in the 8th to tie it 1-1. I think it was, or was it
no, that was the second game where he hit the ball up the middle because
That's
that
right.
was
That's
off
right.
of Hudson Randall.
That's
Was
right.
that the bases loaded jam game? The first one?
The first one was the throw.
The throw by Jake Williams.
Jake Williams, Mike Zunino, and I mean, still to this day, I had never seen Jake Williams bounce a ball there, and then he comes up and just lets it ride
Throw
all
of
the
his
way to
life.
the plate. And I just remember as soon as he hit it, I just remember going, "Dang, like that's it," because he hit it, but he hit it so hard, he had time to come up, and I'm glad he saved everything he had for that throw. But yeah, that game was crazy, and I think, or no, the second game was when Peter hit a home run. Because we went through the whole World Series without hitting a home run until Mooney went up.
Yeah, so talk about it as well. We were just kind of getting into it, but that series featured, I think, some of the biggest clutch plays, especially on defense for South Carolina, whether it was Wingo. What was it? Wingo went home to Barry, then first for double play. You had, I mean, just double plays after double plays. You had the one ball bases loaded, and Barry scoops it out the dirt. There's the bat laying right there. Almost hits the bat on the throw.
It was his catcher's mask. It was his
catcher's mask.
It was the actual mask. Yeah. Yeah, because it was 2 inches. All that ball has to do is hit that mask, and we lose.
It's it. Game over.
Because it bounces away. Yeah.
Yeah.
That goes back to what you're saying. You got to have a little bit of luck. Things got to bounce your right way. And when we got out of those bases loaded jams, no outs, against Virginia, double plays and line drive to second, doubling the guy off at second, like we kind of, all right, maybe we're supposed to win this thing again.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was I remember watching that. It was just like play after play after play. I mean, I think I've heard you say this, and I agree with you. I think Scott Wingo has probably got the best glove at second base I've ever seen. It just nothing's out of his range. Yeah,
that combo. I mean, I didn't get to play with Bobby Haney. He left, the year before I got there, and I know he was unbelievable. But Peter's the best guy I've ever played with at short as well. So that combo up the middle, and then Morales over at third, like you weren't getting anything by him at all. And like I said, that's why our numbers were so good, is because those guys out there could just pick it.
Yeah, great defense is going to help pitching all the time, but South Carolina definitely had the pitching as well. Talk about, do you have any kind of like funny stories or anything from that ball club, or even at your playing times at South Carolina? any kind of stuff maybe the regular fan wouldn't see, but I know those teams, especially with Roth, were just really loose, relaxed, funny, quirky, like stuff like that.
Roth made it interesting a lot. He well, this one's more about me. This is probably one of the coolest moments that I've ever had, in my whole entire life. There's the holding rooms on each side of the stadium before you go into the dugout, because there's always a game that is played before. They got TVs, chairs, and everybody's playing cards and just kind of sleeping, hanging out, whatever they're doing. So we're leaving, and I'm all dressed and I'm walking out, and I had to turn left to go because we were going to the dugout. And I walk out and I hear someone go, "Hey, Kumis, good luck tonight." And I turn around, and it's Nomar Garcia-Parra.
Oh,
wow.
And he called me by name and told me good luck before the national championship game, because I guess he just knew I was pitching and saw it on my jersey. But, I mean, it gave me chills. It was awesome. And I still remember it, to this day, in the rest of my life.
Wow. That'll get you pumped a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, with that being said, about wrapped up here. We've actually got two fan questions, if you will, for us that we had gotten in, and that's a good reminder that I want to give you guys. If you want to give us any questions for the show, make sure to tweet us, message us on Twitter, whatever. But the question here comes from Weiglert. I guess that's how you say that, off of our Reddit feed. I'd love to know his thoughts on Holbrook, how things changed during his transition to head coach. Also want to hear some stories from the national title year. Obviously, we got into that a little bit. I'll ask, what was it? Was it a big transition from Tanner to Holbrook? I think you kind of mentioned you felt like it was really smooth, right?
Yeah, it was pretty smooth because, everything was still set up the same way. It was the same daily routine. It was the same practice type schedule and things like that. But like I said, Holbrook was was the guy that we could kind of go to if we had a problem or if we needed someone to talk to who wasn't the head coach, And I think that maybe that could have got in, and he was still trying to be like that guy as the guy, with all the power, with all the authority, and maybe it just didn't relate well. I'm not sure, never being in that type of situation before, but I guess that I could see that being a problem, is him being, I guess, too nice. I don't know, or too forgiving maybe, because Coach Tanner was a no nonsense guy. I remember in the days where you couldn't even have a beard, or you could only have a mustache, and like with Kevin Melillo and all those guys. So maybe that was him just being too much of like a player's guy and not really. I'm not sure, because I know he had never been in that situation either.
Right. Yeah, I think that was one thing about Tanner. That's definitely a difference. I think Tanner, he struck fear in some guys. I think Holbrook, like you were mentioning, way more players guy, way more friendly. So it could be something that had an impact. But last question comes from 2000 grad from Cocky Talk, which we fully embrace Cocky Talk. So shout out to you guys. The question is, we talked about this earlier. Who do you envision as the next coach for South Carolina baseball? Forrest, if you had to put your money on it, who are you taking right now?
I have no idea. I mean, there's so many names. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if he just went and got, like, it's just some huge name that you're like, there's no chance that we get. Like, if he said, all right, Tim Corbin's going to be the next coach of the Gamecocks, I would say, okay. Like, there'd be no surprise, just because, like, I feel like that's how much pull and that's how much influence Coach Tanner has. But, like I said, I guess I'm going to go with Sullivan right now. Just going off what I heard yesterday. O'Connor might be more of a realistic answer, but I'm kind of pulling for Sullivan now.
Yeah, well, we probably won't know until after, obviously, Super Regionals and College World Series. I think Ray Tanner dropped a little bit of a hint yesterday when he said, yeah, some guys we're looking at, their teams are still involved. Well, there's only 16 teams left. So we got a kind of an idea who he's looking at, who he's talking to. So with that being said, again, Forrest, we appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you for taking your time. Again, 2011 national champion pitcher for the Gamecocks, Forrest Kumis. Thank you so much for coming on. Again, just a reminder, the show is on iTunes, the Spurs Up Show. Please subscribe to us, rate the show. Let us know if you like it. Let us know if you hate it. Also, follow us on Twitter and go to armchairallamericans.com. So with that being said, again, I'm Chris Phillips. Forrest, Tyler, you guys got any last words?
Just appreciate you letting me come on. It was fun. Do it again anytime.
Absolutely. Tyler, anything?
I have a completely unrelated note, basketball-wise. I just saw on Twitter, Sandarius Thornwell and PJ Dozier are working out for the Lakers today, or tomorrow, excuse me. So that's pretty awesome. Second of all, thank you, Forrest. That was awesome hearing all those stories. I think for all Carolina fans, those are the best years ever.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we'll definitely
in overall sports.
Yeah, in overall sports.
Yeah, exactly. I think we talked to we obviously work with guys from other teams, and they even tell us that, Omaha really embraced South Carolina baseball. So it wasn't as much as it was South Carolina's team, it almost became college baseball team, America's team. So it was a magical ride. Hopefully we can get a guy in here that can kind of replicate that a little bit. But what, like Tyler said, we're definitely going to have some more shows coming up. We've got the NBA draft coming up. We'll definitely be recapping how our guys doing that. But with that being said, again, Forrest, thanks for coming on. He's Tyler Clark. I'm Chris Phillips. This is the Spurs Up Show. We appreciate you guys listening. Have a good one.